In 1998, the managing director here for the operation decided to take over and become CEO of one of John Kluge's outside companies. We had involvement with a beef operation that we did with U-Crops out of Richmond and another company out of Ashland, Virginia. Curry Roberts was then the managing director. He then became the CEO of that company. And I think at that point, John Kluge probably had some feel that he was looking at starting to downsize the operation and also donate the property to VA, although that was 3 years earlier, prior to that event. I was promoted to sort of managing director of the property, although it was not quite the role that my predecessor had. Within 6 to 8 months, we started downsizing the operation. That was probably, he had then made the decision that he was going to donate the property to EPA. That was unbeknown to the staff at that point in time. It hadn't been general knowledge, but everyone felt, okay, something was about to happen. There had been rumors about the property potentially being donated, and so everyone expected that what was underfoot at that point in time. So we started downsizing the operation. That was basically my, I served that function of really starting to sell assets and downsize each of the departments. And that happened over the next 2 to 3 years. By the time we had donated the property, we were, and these numbers are approximate, we went from the 100 to 110 full-time people down to about 20, about 2001.
And now, how many?
We have 9 in total now. Up until that point, all the houses that were available at Morgan that were tenant were used for staff. We never rented to an outside person during the time that John Kluge owned, during the time that we had the full operation. That changed a little bit after the gift. With that being said, there were only 7 or 8 tenant houses here on Morgan, per se. Most of those were staff, and most of those were vacated by staff after the operations were closed down. So we only had 2 or 3 houses that were then being used by some of the house staff that was still here through his life estate. And Andy also lived here for a certain period of time after the gift. At the time of the donation, we still had 10 operating farms, some being about half the size of Morgan, Lone Oak almost 1,500 acres. And it was the sort of the hub of our cattle operation. So we had people living on site there. At the peak, we had 42 tenant houses, so we had 42 families living on property, not just Morgan, but throughout all our properties. So yeah, the day-to-day operations changed drastically because we went from operating as a thoroughbred operation, basically doing broodmare activity, 2 herds of registered cattle with Simmental, well, not Simmental, but Charolais and Angus. And we had a feeder facility, and if you want a little more background on that, I can give you that, but it was basically a facility where we background cattle. So we would run 2,500 to 3,000 head through that a year on an annual basis. And we cropped about 2,000 acres all total. That was hay, corn, soybeans, etc. So we went from a very active farming operation down to 0. When we downsized, we basically started eliminating the estate staff first. He started pulling back on maintenance on personal assets. We started taking some of the gardens out, or like the rose garden, we eliminated that. We eliminated some of the higher maintenance areas that he really didn't want anymore from a personal side. We eliminated then the farm staff, the horse staff, and it went on from there. So the operations just ceased in essence. By 2001, at the time of the donation, I had already was leasing out some of the farms to other farmers to just keep cropping or keep cattle on. And at the time of the donation, then the University of Virginia Foundation gained control of all the outlying properties, plus about half of Morgan. Because John Kluge only kept a life estate on 1,450 some acres of the 3,000 roughly acres here. So we then only managed the core or the life estate, and the UVA Foundation managed there were multiple properties after that point. So my duties changed drastically from really we were through pretty much the downsizing time or eliminating operations out of than just managing a life estate, which was totally different from managing a farm. We weren't doing any agricultural activities, or all the horses were gone, all the cattle was auctioned off and sold. So it changed quite a bit.